Chris, what is our second main topic today?
Topic 2 is coming from Shahan. Hey, John and crew. Tobey, Andrew, and Tom have officially given their first interview together since the release of No Way Home. What did you make of the interview and the whole, including Tom Holland's statements about his future as Spider-Man, and also Tobey having said that his chapter of Spider-Man isn't closed yet?
I'll tell you what. I mean, whenever a movie comes out, there's a million interviews and all the press appearances and all that kind of stuff. Peter Hammond over at Deadline ended up getting the 3 Spider-Men together. He got Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland all together to talk. And I think it's the first interview I've seen with the 3 of them really all together. It might have happened at another point in time, but this was the first one that I saw. And I'll tell you what, Hammond, I don't think is really known as an interview guy. This is a great interview.
I thought so too.
It's a really, really good interview. And there's a lot of stuff that comes out of this interview with them talking that not only gave us as readers some background as to, Tom's mentality going into the movie, but also what brought Tobey into this project, what brought Andrew into this project. And it's a good size, like there's a half-hour interview of it on there. It's not like one of these typical PR 3-minute interview pieces. This is like a half-hour long. And I think there's some really, really good stuff in here, hearing them talk about this project and what brought it together. And there's a couple, I want to ask you guys here, like what some of your big takeaways were from the interview. Let me give you just a couple of mine. One for me that I loved was when they asked Andrew Garfield, basically why you did it. And he was like, oh, like what brought you on board? And he said, for me, it was just waiting to see if Tobey was going to do it. Where Tobey goes, I follow. Which, I mean, that may sound like, okay, oh yeah, no. But when you go back to that iconic event when Andrew Garfield snuck into the Hall H Spider-Man panel at Comic-Con and went up to the mic and told the story about why the Spider-Man movie, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies meant so much to him and how key they were to him and blah, blah. When he says in this interview, I was just waiting to see if Tobey would do it because where Tobey goes, I follow. That wasn't a line. Like that's really him saying, yeah, listen, he's one of my idols. If he says we do it, I'm going to do it. And I thought that was incredible. I thought that was a really, really great moment. That wasn't just a funny little joke.
Right.
And I loved that. Of course, one of the big takeaways is when Pete Hammond asks Tom Holland, are you going to be back as Spider-Man again? So this is what Tom Holland said to that. The truthful answer, and I've done a whole press tour where all I do is lie. The truth is, and you're not going to like the truth, I don't know the answer to that question. This film for me was as special as an experience as there ever could be. Sharing the screen with these guys, talking about Tobey and Andrew, playing Spider-Man could be quite an alienating experience because, we're the only 3 blokes who have done it. Well, there was a TV movie of Spider-Man, wasn't there? That a guy might argue with that.
TV series, Nicholas Hammond.
That's right.
And there's the Japanese Spider-Man as well.
That's right. Now, we're the only 3 blokes who have done it. So to share that with you two, it's been such a wonderful experience, of which I have such amazing memories. I don't know. I know I love this character, and I know that I am not ready to say goodbye, Holland said. But if it's time for me to say goodbye, then I will do so proudly, knowing that I've achieved everything I wanted to with this character, and sharing it with these boys will be forever one of the most special experiences of my career. So, if it's time, it's time. If it's not, it's not. But at the moment, I don't know. Now, we're coming out of a period of time with these Spider-Man films where all these guys have done is lied, including Andrew Garfield and whatever. And so you would be forgiven if you were to take the skeptical approach and saying, I don't believe a thing Tom Holland is saying because all these guys have done about Spider-Man is lie. And you would be rational to think that. I'm going to tell you why I believe Tom Holland. And here's why I believe. Now, understanding what is it I believe. He says, I'm not done with this character. I believe that. He wants to play Spider-Man more. But I also believe him when he says he doesn't know. Because a little while ago, there was a quote taken out of context by Kevin Feige that people ran with, saying, Kevin Feige confirms they're making Spider-Man 4. Kevin Feige confirms they're making Spider-Man 4. And everybody ran with that. But when you went back and actually read the full interview, Because it wasn't just Kevin Feige. It was Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal. And right before Kevin said that, to understand the context of what Kevin was saying, Amy Pascal was basically asked about, some comments she had made before about, oh yeah, we're going to do it. She said, look, we as producers, we're always hopeful. Yeah, nothing's official, but we're hoping that this is what we're going to be able to do. We're looking forward and whatever. It's within that context that then Kevin Feige said the comments he made. So what do I believe? I believe Tom is telling the truth. He wants to do it. I think Kevin wants to do it. I think Amy wants to do it. But whether or not it can be done is not officially known yet. They're already generating their ideas. We know they're already putting some pitches together and they're already developing ideas for where it can go. But I completely believe Tom here when he says, but I don't know if we're doing it or not. Now, there's going to be another Spider-Man with Tom Holland. Of that, I have very, very little doubt. But I think what Amy Pascal, Kevin Feige, Tom Holland are saying is the appropriate thing to say, because until it's 100% and until it's signed on the dotted line, until all that kind of stuff is done, you got to say you don't know and you're telling the truth. But he's also letting audiences know, just so you know, I'm not done with the role. Like, I want to keep playing him. If it's time, it's time. But I want to keep playing him, and I think he's telling the truth. Those are a couple things that stood out to me in this interview that I thought were really special. Rob, as you read over this interview with these three guys, what were some of the big takeaways for you that kind of stood out to you as a part of it?
Well, one of the things that I thought was the best for me in terms of this interview is Andrew Garfield addresses why the MCU is so successful and what the approach should be to any franchise property. He basically said making this movie, working with John Watts, the director, was like making an independent film. That our characters and the way they interacted, it was almost as if we're forget about the spectacle, forget about the visual effects. We're making an indie character piece. And it's that humanity and that characterization. Then this is why the Marvel Cinematic Universe works. One of my favorite scenes in any of the MCU movies is actually in Endgame, when Captain America comes in and is talking to Black Widow. She's behind her desk. The weight of the world is on her. It's been 5 years since the blip. They don't know what they're doing. Captain America's talking about, I saw whales in the East River today. And it's that's a great moment. That is the reason why the MCU is a different franchise than any other franchise, because they concentrate first and foremost on these characters and on the performances. You can surround anybody. You can have as many things blowing up as you want, but if you don't like these people and you don't care about those quiet moments, and if you don't have those quiet moments, it's all what is the phrase? Sound and thunder meaning nothing. What is that?
Sound and fury.
Sound and fury signifying nothing. That's what so many franchise properties devolve into. And hearing this could have easily gone that direction. And even Tobey and Andrew addressed that. They were like, how is this going to work? Like, are we just going to show up and be like, hey, we're here, do some spider stuff and leave? I think the reason that they were in this film, the reason the movie connects, and they talk about this in the interview, is that it had meaning. It was like these brothers. Everyone said that it was Tom Holland becoming Spider-Man. It took him the third movie was actually his final origin story. And in dealing with the heartbreak and in hearing the stories of Tobey's Peter Parker and Andrew's Peter Parker, it allowed him, that was the thing that allowed him to get through this horrible experience of losing Aunt May, knowing he had these brothers that understood. And that's not something you normally think about when you think about a typical superhero film. And I think that the fact that all three of these actors felt that way was pretty telling.
Chris, when you had a chance to go over and look at this interview, which I thought was really, I'm not usually interested by these celebrity interviews. This one I thought was pretty well done. There's a lot of stuff that they drop in here, but what were the takeaways for you? What did you walk away from that interview with?
Oh, I mean, echoing Rob, that this film just had so much heart in it. From pre-production to the very, very end, everyone wanted to make this for the right reasons. And that's something that's so palpable when you watch this film. You can tell how emotionally invested everyone is in it. I also just love the camaraderie between these three actors, because I never really thought about the isolation of playing this character. It's a lot like the actors who have played the Doctor in Doctor Who. There's this kind of club where it's this shared experience that only the select few have and know about. And it's really lovely to see that they all have taken to each other in real life like brothers and go, hey, we can talk about how just bonkers this experience is. At different times in our lives, we've been part of a worldwide phenomena, and now we get to experience it together. That's something I've never gotten to do. How cool. I love all of that. And I'm just so happy to see that Tom is still interested in making these films, because some of the interviews during the press tour, right, have been, well, if this is my last one, and if I'm...
which I never bought for a
yeah,
second.
and if I'm playing him at a certain age, I'm doing something wrong. I'm so happy he wants to keep playing him.
It's a total, remember, a negotiation tactic as well.
Absolutely.
And also, Tom Holland, as we just pointed out, has Uncharted coming out. And if they made some huge announcement that, well, Tom Holland signs up for 6 more Spider-Man movies in the MCU with Sony, it would sort of take away from the promotion of a movie that's coming out in 2 weeks.
It would totally get overshadowed.
And I think that's part of it too.
Yeah.
One of the other things that really stood out to me from this was when they were talking to Tobey, and Tobey saying...
He was very articulate too.
He's great. And they asked him, what brought you back and all that kind of stuff. He goes, well, Kevin and Amy got a hold of me and they said, we want to get together and talk. You know what this is about. I thought that was funny. It's like, why else would Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal become, you know what this is about? It's like, okay. So he said, he said, I was interested, but when I met with Amy and Kevin, and just understood that they wanted this to be a celebration of 3 generations of Spider-Man. It wanted just to be a celebration of Spider-Man and establish Tom's real, true origin. I thought that was interesting. But here's what I thought was really cool about what Tobey said. That is a part of this I don't think any of us think about. I certainly didn't. He goes, a lot of people are focusing, I'm paraphrasing here, on Tom, Andrew, and me, but the people who have been on this entire Spider-Man journey has been Amy and Kevin. They've been a part of this for 20 years.
Yeah.
This is their journey, and they're bringing it to this point. And he said, sitting there with them, and again, I'm paraphrasing, you can go and read it in the interview yourself, but he says, of sitting there with them and seeing their heart for it and their love for it and them really wanting to make this celebration. And I just realizing I get to be a part of this. I thought that was really telling too.
Yeah.
And it ended up with something very, very special. A lot of people talk about the 3 finger pointing Spider-Man and stuff like that. Hey, that's fine. But for somebody like me, who I remember I was in Indianapolis, Indiana for Star Wars Celebration. We were screening our film at Star Wars Celebration that year. And me and my buddy, we drove to Indiana. And then the VP of Lucasfilm, a buddy of mine was a director at Lucasfilm, and they invited me, my buddy, the director of Blair Witch Project, and about 4 other people to go to a movie theater later that night where we get to privately watch the first Spider-Man movie. But this was like 2 or 3 weeks before it came out. And we're like, all right, there's like 8 of us in the theater. And we took over down there. And I remember watching that Spider-Man movie and being so wowed by it. Like, I didn't like it as much as, like, say, X-Men or stuff like that. But I just, like, I can't believe they're actually able to do Spider-Man. And then when I'm sitting in that theater watching Spider-Man No Way Home, and you see the 3 guys standing together, I mean, honestly, Andrew coming through the portal, that was cool. And when Tobey comes through the portal, that was cool. Seeing the 3 of them together, talking to each other, and I'm realizing this is 3 generations of Spider-Man and a real celebration. That was really special. And reading this interview, you could really tell that wasn't lost on these guys.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really cool.
Also, when they were talking about when they first got together, like getting all 3 of them in a room, that story they were telling about how when all 3 of them were in their suits, they were wondering, like, I don't know, did we get this? I don't think we got it. And how John Watts comes over and goes, that was great. That was everything we needed. And they're sitting there going, can't we do more? I don't even think they understood the power of what it was like to see those 3 characters. Can you imagine being John Watts, seeing these 3 Spider-Men together and you're directing them?
Oh.
I mean, it would have been, it was great. It's a great interview. You can also watch it on video. It's on video on Deadline as well.
And that dude now gets to just go and direct Fantastic Four, the first family of comic books. And he's like, John Watts is quickly gone from a guy that, to, oh my God, I directed the Spider-Man.
Well, people forget too, that's Kevin Feige's strength. John Watts made Cop Car,
yes,
which is another cool low budget Kevin Bacon movie with kids in it. Really good movie. And he talks, Tom talks about how when they first got together, that John Watts and him were both like terrified. that story he tells where we were in my trailer and we just were meeting, and John Watts is terrified and I was nervous and we didn't know if it was going to work. And now we get to the end of No Way Home, and of course it did work. But Kevin Feige pulled John Watts out of an indie film, and that sensibility is what kept those movies the way they are.
Well, where did Kevin Feige get the Russo brothers from?
Yeah.
TV and low budget.
Where did he get Peyton Reed from? Peyton Reed already had some, but Feige's been so good at that. Anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic. Sorry about that. But yeah, anyway, guys, the question is for you. Have you had a chance to read this interview or watch the video of it on Deadline? It's really quite fascinating. I think there's a lot to take away from it. If so, what were your biggest takeaways in it? Whatever you guys are thinking, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.